Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple more holiday cards for my holiday card series. I'll have a link in the end screen at the very end of the video with my holiday 2025 card series playlist that I will continue to add to. As always, disclaimer, there's no schedule. I just post whenever. So I will continue to add to it as I get holiday cards up. For today's video, I combined a couple of oldies but goodies with a couple of new things, mixing and matching, a little bit of ink blending, a whole lot of splatter glitter. I use blue. Again, for those that have followed me for a long time, you know, I love blue. I love like the color blue, all the different shades. I just don't reach for it very often for some weird reason. I don't know why. But I did today, and I love how the colors turned out. So anywho, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get into making the cards. So I am using the Elegant Ornament wafer die set. And just FYI, I think this set is being retired or discontinued. It is currently on deep discount. I saw that as I was, adding my links and everything, and I was like, oh, that's a good deal. So just heads up on that. And I die cut the detail layers of this wafer die from Simon's, I think this is Sapphire glitter paper. Love. So pretty. So there's multiple dies in this set that do the different little elements. The little topper I die cut from some matte silver. And then this leftover piece, I'm going to run this through a second time with the additional little outline detail layer. Because this die set, you can kind of do whatever you want with it, like which pieces you choose to use. So I die cut all the little outline portions from this blue glitter paper. And then like the base of the ornament, I die cut just from some like Neenah Classic Cross 110 pound cardstock. And normally you pop out like those little bits, and you could back it with something or inlay other colors. I decided that like when I pulled it like out of the wafer die, they stayed in place. I could have popped them out, but I was like, I like how that looks. You get that detail, but the cardstock, remains in place. So I just flipped the die or like the die cut over and used tape to hold those pieces because I'm going to do some ink blending and I don't want them falling out. So after they were taped into place, I took CADETTE ink and any blending brush will work. I get asked a lot about blending brushes, and I know there are so many. There are so many available now. You don't need all of them. I don't need all of them. I just like having options. And I do this as a job, and then on top of it, I'm curious. A friend gave me a couple of these Pinkfresh ones, and I was like, oh, darn it, I need more. So I ordered more, and I'm liking them. But any blending brush will work. I just blended from the bottom of the ornament upwards and just created that little fade. Love it. And then once that was done, I just got to adhere the glitter elements. And with this portion, I cut off the top of it. It doesn't really matter, but it's something to keep in mind when you are working specifically with something like glitter paper. Adhering on top of the glitter paper is a little bit finicky. You need to use very strong adhesive, like liquid adhesive or things like red line tape, foam tape, etc. Because glitter just like repels a lot of adhesives. And so I just cut that off because I wanted this matte silver piece, and it also made it just a smidge less bulky. So once I had my little ornament assembled, I'd done everything like twice because when I've got all the supplies out and I'm doing this, why not make more than one? So for my background, this is an oldie but goodie favorite. This is the Delicate Pine Branches embossing folder. This came out a few years ago. I just wanted something kind of just soft, sort of subtle. And I ran it through with the folder and more white cardstock. And then I'm putting this in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp on top of it with the white Christmas text, which I told y'all I'd be using this stamp a lot. One, I like just text backgrounds of any sort. And this one for holiday cards, yes, please. So I inked up the stamp with cabbage ink. I used another blending brush just to it kind of softens the ink a bit. And because I'm stamping on top of something that's already been run through an embossing folder, you're not going to get a perfect impression. I don't care. I didn't want a perfect impression. I'm just doing this to add that texture, and you can sort of see some of the words here and there. That's it. If you wanted more even coverage with the stamp, I would stamp first, then run it through the embossing folder. It just depends on the look you're going for. So that added that little extra bit. And then I trim these panels to size. I've talked about this before. When you are running cardstock through with an embossing folder, and it will vary depending on the pattern, the type of cardstock you're using, etc. The cardstock will not stay true to size. So if it was exactly A2 size when I ran it through with the embossing folder, there is a good chance that it'll be slightly smaller than that when it's done. Sometimes I don't care because I'm going to trim it down, whatever. But if I want to keep it to a specific size, I make sure my cardstock starts a little bit bigger. So that's what I did with these, because I wanted them to be A2 size when I was done. And then after I did my embossing and my stamping, I trimmed them down to size. And then I took that cabbage ink, and then I'm also using a little bit of artichoke ink and just blending it, starting at the bottom. Kind of doing the same thing how I did with the ornament, just letting it fade out to white, just to give it that little bit of extra color and depth. And then one of the new wafer dies I pulled out, this is the Loopy bow, which I think right now, again, as of doing this voiceover, I think this one's on pre-order because it's been crazy popular. And I had die cut it from Island Blue cardstock. And I decided to just stick all these die cuts to a stamp and stencil mat. A grip mat would have worked as well, just because it's, multiple pieces, and I didn't want to have to hold every little piece to add some ink to again build depth. And for that, I'm just using Royal ink, and then just a little blending brush and slap it on that color. Now with the stamp and stencil mats, because they've got a low-tack adhesive on them, when I'm done this, and I did it to the second die cut, I just take that to the sink and I rinse it under water. I don't scrub it. I don't use any soap or anything like that. These do get very stained over time. I've shown some of my other mats that are just horrifically stained, but they still have a bit of stick to them. So I just rinse them under water, and then I just let them air dry, and I put the little cover back on it, and it's good to go for next time. So after I'd blended the ink onto all the little pieces to make this bow, I then assembled the bow with liquid glue. I'm leaving off the long swirly bits. Those I'm going to adhere separately once I get the card front ready to go. So I just assembled the actual, just the loops and the little knot, and then the shorter little ends to this bow, little tails, and then reverse tweezers for the win, because then those can just pinch everything, pinch it all together, let the glue dry for a couple minutes, and I can go do something else. So that's something else, being more die cutting. I use the Ho Ho Holiday Greens. This is another new set. It does come with its own little magnet sheet. Always love that. And I just die cut some of the greenery from that die set. These ones I die cut from, this would have been Concord 9th Artichoke cardstock. And then ink blending these, I used Field and then Pine ink. Didn't bother sticking these to that stamp and stencil mat. One, because the mat was still wet, because I'd already rinsed it off. But also, ones like this, they're not little fiddly pieces, so I don't care as much. The other thing to always keep in mind when you are adding dye inks to color cardstock is that most inks, the vast majority of the inks we work with regularly, all our little stamping inks and blending inks, everything, most dye inks soften and dry back. And when you're applying them to color cardstock, they will look significantly darker when you first apply them because the ink is still wet. So if you're, aiming for a certain amount of depth or just a certain look, test it on a scrap first with, your cardstock of choice, your ink colors of choice, and then let it fully dry. Because you'd be surprised sometimes how much some of the colors will dry back depending on how dark the cardstock is. So I knew it was going to dry back. I was just adding all of that, it gives just that little extra bit of depth. So it's not just flat cardstock. And then to assemble my card front, I put Big Mama foam tape on the back of the ornament. That just pops it up just a smidge, gives it a dimension. And then I threaded silver cord through the topper because that is one of my little bits of OCD is when I'm making ornaments, like paper ornaments for my cards, I can't leave them just like floating there. I was like, they need to be hanging from something. That is just how it is. Even with all the die gets everything, it looks fine without, but I just can't. I need something. So threaded through the silver cord, wrapped it around the back, taped it into place, and then we're good. And then I'm going to start tucking in my little greenery bits and adhering those into place with liquid glue. So just getting them in there, trimming bits apart, edit your die cuts. It's just paper, make them work for you, So I would trim little pieces off and then I'm tucking them, kind of behind this ornament, trimming off little bits because especially these greenery pieces a couple of them are quite long. So I just trimmed them down, stuck them into place. And then for the bow and the extra tails, I really like the swirly bits. It's just a statement piece, So for these, I'm going to start bringing in just little bits of foam tape here and there because of how it's layering partially on top of the ornament and then partially just floating. So that just is going to keep everything from getting smushed in the mail, that sort of a thing. So if you take the backing off of foam tape, you can curve it to fit your die cuts. So that's what I was doing. And then a little bit of liquid glue. So I'll get these tails adhered into place first and then just stack the foam tape, adding it where I need it, and then just adding little bits of liquid glue. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bow itself, just adding a few little strips of foam tape there, just to even everything out. I was going to just glue the bow in place, but I was like, no, I can take the extra minute or two to add the little bits of foam tape, so that everything just stays where it belongs. So built all of that and then repeated that on the second card, which once I've got one layout figured out, it goes even faster the second time. So once they were all assembled, I'm of course going to add splatter. So I'm going to use Simon's Positively Perfect White Splatter Medium. This stuff, very liquidy, just pure liquid. So one, be careful when you're opening it, that it's vertical. You don't want this to spill. And then always stir it up really well before you use it because all of that pigment does settle to the bottom. So stirred it up really well. And then I just dipped my fan brush in there and went to town with the splatter. And added even more than I was planning. I was going to be more demure, a little more mindful with it. Y'all know, once I get started, I can't stop. So I added a good amount of splatter to these. Cleaned up my brush, put the lid back on that Positively Perfect White Splatter. Because, I try to be very aware of that because otherwise I would knock it over. It's just a given. It's only a matter of time. Anywho, I let everything dry. And then for my sentiments, I'm using the CZ Design Making Spirits Bright set. And I just took the little Season's Greetings from the bottom of the set and I'm just stamping it onto scraps of white cardstock with that royal ink. And then I'm going to use the coordinating wafer die to die cut those out. And then I'm going to use the set on the insides of my cards as well. And my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I'm going to stick my card bases into my MISTI. I'm going to line up the larger sentiment first. I'm going to ink this up with that royal ink, so that's just that bright dark blue. Stamp that, do the same thing on the second card base. And then I'm going to line up one of the little companion sentiments along the bottom, or along the underside of this sentiment. And that one I'm going to stamp with the CADETTE ink, which is what I used at the beginning to ink on the ornament. And because they parts of the sentiment layer over that darker one, in real life you can see it. You can read it just fine. The way these inks layer when you stamp them is just interesting. Like you can see the lighter colors through the darker colors. It's an interesting little thing, but it's legible. Everything is good. So stamp those. And then I adhered the card fronts to the card bases. And then I used just a smidge of foam tape and glue to adhere the sentiment to the card front. And then just put one of my magnets on top just to hold it down, let the glue dry. And then my final little embellishment is some Pawsitively Dazzling gems in Royal. So just bright blue. And same thing. Figured out my little placement. Once I'm happy with it, adhere everything down with dabs of glue, just picking them up with my embellishment wand. And then I just repeat on the second card, just like so. And then I just got to let the glue dry. And I've got these little ornament cards with these various shades of blue and blue glitter and blue bling and a whole bunch of splatter. And they were fun. They were so fun. So there are my finished cards. Love it. That blue glitter paper is really pretty. I've used it in the past. I forget when the last time was I used it, but I've used it before because I've got a bunch of scraps of it. So I was like, okay, I do reach for it. It's really pretty. In fact, I need to order a second pack of it because I only have like a couple sheets left, I think. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out with me. Links to all the things are down below. I appreciate the thumbs up and the comments so very much. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!